Hafa welcome back to the Guam Congress Building. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is now called to order. Today's Friday, May 10th, 2024, and the time is 2:05 p.m. And in compliance with the Open Government Law, notice for this public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and posted to the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal on Friday, May 3rd and Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. Notices were also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. This hearing is being live streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome and thank my colleague, the Minority Leader, Senator Frank Blas, for joining me here today. This is an informational briefing on the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority's Maternal Child Health Family Birthing Center project. This is an opportunity for them to discuss the components of this project and how we are going to get this done. It should include, according to news articles, a maternity ward, a labor and delivery ward, and neonatal intensive care unit, or a NICU. So for today, this informational briefing, we're on a strict time frame due to schedules and of some of our professionals at GMH, and this briefing will have a limited time frame of 2 hours. The primary purpose is for GMH to give us an update on this birthing center project, including upgrades, including financing, and we will allow for questions from senators at the end, but questions related to other topics, I'm afraid we'll have to hold until hopefully we're going to have a budget hearing on GMH this month in a couple of maybe 10 days, and hopefully we can have those questions at that time. So I just want to point out the background of some of the funding on this. In 2010, there was a study by the Economic Adjustment Committee on the Guam Socioeconomic Project Needs Assessment during the military buildup. At that time, Matrix had done this study, and they were proposing that the military fund the construction of a new 35,400 square foot hospital wing, including 90 beds, located on the old hospital site known as Oka Point, located less than half a mile from the existing GMH, and they would be able to move the pediatric, OB ward, and nursery rooms over there and free up that space to renovate the operating rooms, post-op rooms, critical care unit, and ICU, and other projects. That was in 2010. So that was a proposal. It was never fulfilled. And we have known since then that upgrades or renovations were needed. In 2014, maybe 20 years ago, the Guam Legislature passed Public Law 32-179. It appropriated $895,813.77 to GMHA to fund the renovation of the OB maternity ward. Specifically, GMHA used this appropriation for the RFP for Phase 1, which was professional, architectural, and engineering design services for the completion of assessments, renderings, designs, and services during renovation of GMHA's labor and delivery maternity and nursery renovation project. Thank you. The funding in that law was from tobacco asset-backed bonds. So this was a project from the bond proceeds, and that I believe was sponsored by Senator Rodriguez at the time. In that same year, Public Law 32-204 also passed to arrange a line of credit, a revolving loan fund, or a direct loan for GMH not to exceed $7 million for the renovation of the labor and delivery ward, or otherwise known as the Maternal and Child Health Care Renovation Project. And then that was going to be funded out of business privilege taxes, sponsored by Judy Wampat at the time, Speaker Judy Wampat. In 2016, Public Law 33-151 was passed by the Guam Legislature to arrange another line of credit, a revolving fund, and/or a direct loan not to exceed $9,200,000 to finance the GMH labor and delivery ward renovation. Again, that was supposed to be funded from a $600,000 annual appropriation from the business privilege tax or dedication. That was a bill sponsored by then Speaker Judy Wampat. In November 2018, GRMC announced the end of its maternity care services, essentially increasing GMH's responsibility to take on more patients for labor and delivery, and actually all patients for labor and delivery, because neither the Naval Hospital nor GRMC is able to do this service. In 2022, Public Law 36-107, otherwise known as FY23 Budget Act, passed and appropriated $15 million from the audited surplus fund balance of FY22 to the Hospital Capital Improvement Fund for the purposes of the renovations of the GMHA Maternal and Child Healthcare Renovation Project. We're going to confirm with GMH today whether any of these fundings are still in play or not. And we know that on September 28th of just last year, 2023, the Committee on Health held an oversight hearing where we discussed the renovations of the maternity healthcare projects. And during that time, we were told that the project was essentially put on hold because GMH is planning for a new hospital. But they had proceeded with the A&E design phase, the design concept, and the assessment phase in August of last year. We were also told during a hearing on, it was a session where we were trying to give an emergency appropriation to GMH of $30 million, that in order to do that, in order to get $30 million out of our general fund, we would have to deappropriate from some appropriations, which we didn't formally do, but they had given us a list of things that we would need to deappropriate, including, I think, I can't remember the amount now, from the money that had been dedicated to the labor and delivery ward project in previous years. We were also told during the oversight hearing that $1 million of ARP funds, so they were projecting to receive $20 million of ARP funds from the governor, in addition to the $30 million appropriated from the legislature, and that $1 million of that $20 million ARP would be dedicated for the NICU expansion project, A&E design and construction. That was according to a PowerPoint at that oversight hearing. Okay, that's the background from my perspective, and but now I'd like to invite you, Dr. Prince. He is the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Guam Memorial Hospital. You're welcome to invite any of your team or to make any presentation to update us on the status of these projects. Thank you, Senator Brown, for joining us, and thank you, Senator Barnett, for joining us here today. I just announced that some of these professionals are on a strict time frame, so we're going to have to limit it until 3:45. So, thank you. Please proceed.
So, half a day, Madam Speaker, Senator Bloss, Senator Barnett, Senator Brown. I come in humble adoration, truthfully, for allowing us to have this informational hearing about this project. And I want to say that there are special thanks that needs to go around to you, the legislature, the governor, our department of, our director of administration, and this team sitting beside me, as well as those who have gone before us. As you have so eloquently said the history of this project, it's been a long time coming, but the time is of the essence today. So it is with that I want to say thank you, and I would like to introduce my team. From the left, on my very left, is Jordan Paloon, who is our legal counsel. And then we have Ms. Rodalyn Garrido, who is our Deputy Assistant Administrator of Operations. Then to her right is Mr. Zaldi Tugadi, who is our Acting Associate Administrator of Operations. And to my direct left is Dr. Jonathan Seidel, who is my Acting Chief Medical Officer, who just happens to be an OB-GYN. So this is This is a wonderful opportunity to be able to speak to you, and I would love to give them all the credit and not me. And I would like to have Mr. Zaldi go ahead and start the PowerPoint.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us today. We're here to present. What we have prepared for you today is, can we have the slide? Okay, there you go. For informational brief, maternal child health renovation and expansion project. Next slide. Okay, next slide, please. We'll pass this one. Okay, so this slide now shows you the existing structure that we have right now. Okay, so we have here the existing layout that we have presently. You have in the blue highlighted areas, the old labor and delivery. And the green area would be the OB and GYN. And the yellow area is the old NICU. To the right, on the red block right there, would be the future NICU expansion that we're looking at. Next slide, please. This slide shows you what we have in 2019 completed plan. This covers the new layout of all those departments, NICU, OB, L&D. In here, you'll see the LDRs, LDRP, postpartum, and the NICU. Okay. This is the second floor. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so in any construction, since we are in operation 24/7, we have here our phase-in approach on how we intend to do the project. Again, this is one of the phase process that we would like to see, but of course, it is planned. It may change, but this is how we look at it today. So the green area is where the NICU, new NICU layout is, because this is on the second floor. This area would encumber in the first floor, which is going to be also an additional space for multipurpose for GMH. The red one here is covering the majority of the L&D. The blue one here is the postpartum, which is OBGY. And then the pink one here is a combination of all the support offices, clinics, procedure rooms, etc., etc. Can we go back to the second slide? Going back, one more. Okay, so what we have here is the square footage that we have. Currently, OB and L&D, that is 18,000 square foot with one C-section. The new OB and L&D is supposed to be 19,500, approximately square foot, a gain of 1,500. It would have the same C-section, same number, one C-section. For the current OB and L&D, we'll have, we only have 2 L&Ds. But for the new one, we'll have 8 LDRs. Current OB, we have only 4 labor rooms. For the new OB and L&D, we have LDRP, 3 rooms. On the current one, we have only 1 LDR. We have 17 postpartum and 2 isolation rooms. For the new OB and L&D, we have 14 postpartum and 1 postpartum isolation room. For the NICU, currently the NICU is about 1,800 square foot. For the new NICU, we're almost doubling that, 3,600 square foot. Currently, we have 4 NICU. We're projecting with the new NICU 9 bays, which is could be expanded to 18 in case of surge. The current NICU right now, intermediate, we only have 8. 8 regulars and 2 ISO. In the NICU, we're looking at 2, so we're gaining more rooms here. Okay.
Zaldi, can you please speak about also the ongoing project right now with the power source with the OB ward presently?
So concurrently, right now, we are about, I would say, a good 60% of the power upgrade for the OB ward. So we're trying to see if we could finish that. Actually, we are pegging it for contract completion by end of the month, May 31st. So that would be done this month.
Thank you. And there was a lot of time put in with this design back in 2014, 2015, 2016. There's been a lot of stakeholders that have really played an active role, and I just want to say thank you to them. There's also one more slide that we can look at, which will give you a little bit of a Gantt chart to show, because I like timelines, that's just me personally, so I just wanted to allow that to happen. Rodolin?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. If we can please scroll to the second to the last slide. There you go. So on this slide, you'll see a project timeline for this project, beginning with May 2024. So we are currently conducting the A&E designs review and recertification. As was already presented earlier, we did complete the design. However, that was all done prior to COVID. And so part of this first part that we're trying to do is do somewhat of a recertification, revalidation to ensure that the current design as it stands is going to pass muster in terms of, COVID requirements and so on. And so that's part of the consideration. As a matter of fact, just the last couple nights, we did have a presentation for our stakeholders within the hospital. So those were the nurses and the physicians within the maternal child health care area, to show them what the plans are and to get their feedback as far as if there's anything else that we need to include, before we proceed further. And so based on this timeline, you'll see that we're projecting this design review and certification, recertification phase to last about 3 months, 2 to 3 months. It's a rather aggressive timeline, but because majority of the plan is already intact, we don't anticipate we're gonna take much longer than that. And after that, we want to move straight into the formal bid phase for the construction services. So we hope, barring any other extenuating circumstance, we hope that we can begin the formal bid, hopefully by August of this year. And then we know for a fact that typically on a bid, the minimum requirement is 15 days. However, because this is a rather large project, we want to give it a little bit more time. So in here, we did build in a 3-month cushion. For that, we're hoping to try to, do the bid as expeditious as possible. But again, as we all know with procurement, there's just all these challenges. And so we just kind of want to build in some cushion in there. And we hope that by, barring any other circumstance, we hope that we can at least complete the formal procurement by November, and then award by December and begin the project at that time. We anticipate that this project will last anywhere from 2 to 3 years, given the magnitude of the project, and which will take us all the way to September 30, 2027. Okay, so as far as the funding, and Speaker Terlaje did mention all the different public laws and so on. And so one of the things that we did confirm with the Department of Administration is per the Public Law 32-107, which is the $15 million appropriated from the audited fiscal year 22 surplus funds. We confirmed with DOA that, yes, that is still available, and that is still in the, I believe it's the Guam Memorial Hospital Capital Improvement Fund. So it is at DOA, but it's parked there waiting for this project. So that's $15 million. But again, because this project, the design and everything had started several years earlier, the initial estimate was around $9 million for this project at that time. Given inflation and everything else, we anticipate that the construction itself may cost us about $15.5 million. However, because there's only $15 million that was appropriated per Public Law 32107, we are anticipating to use the balance, which you mentioned. We had set aside about $1 million for the NICU expansion project. So we're going to take that remaining balance from that $1 million that we set aside on the ARPA funding.
Thank you, Rodolin. So as you can see, we're trying to bring everything together. Truly, the impetus of this is we need to do something to progress the care for the mothers and babies of this island. And that was my goal. And I would also just like to open up to Dr. Seidel and Dr. Versio, who is on my right, who are both OBGYNs. I would like for them maybe to say a few things if they would like.
Thank you, Destin. So it's been a long time coming. You went over the history of it. Before I get in too deep, I want to acknowledge a person that's not here, Dr. Shea. It was one of his ideas, and he's pushed it. So he needs a shout out. And then Dustin has worked tirelessly to push it over the goal line, and so he was too humble to mention his name, but I'll mention his name for him. It's a great day, right? We need it. We're going to use it. You know, it would have been nice to have this project done in 2016. Some of the arguments were we're going to build a new hospital, right? But if we would have done it in 2016, we would have enjoyed, and the women of Guam would have enjoyed, and the pediatrics would have enjoyed this project for about 6 years already. And no one could predict the future. And so we need it, and we got the money, and so that's really good. I want to talk about the ripple effects of this. One of our problems right now is we're having a hard time recruiting a neonatologist. They come, they look, and they go, oh my God, I can't work here. Now when I have the opportunity to talk to a neonatologist, I'll say, listen, come here. Let me show you your new building. You could be on the ground floor of this design, and it's you know, people appreciate that. And I think we're going to see a better work product. And so, yeah, I'm really pleased that this is moving forward. I could answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Dr. Seidel. And again, today is the day, right? So past is past, today's the day. I move forward. This is what it is about progressing healthcare on our great island we call home. So with that, our presentation is done. We would like to answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you very much. And so it's exciting if it's going to happen. Of course, we're now holding our breath because of what's happened in the past, but I'm very excited. This is huge. Again, GMHA is the only hospital in Guam that takes care of maternity, childbirth, neonatal, all of it. So, Sizoswasi, to all of your teams who've been doing this all these years without the renovation, very dedicated. Do we currently have a neonatologist?
No, we don't.
All right. And so you're confirming, Rodolin, that the $15 million from public law, it's 36-107 or 32? When is it? 36?
36107, my apologies.
So that one, that was FY22 excess, that money has actually been put aside.
Yes, ma'am.
It's reserved. That's great.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's like a miracle. I really think so. And, all right, and then okay, so just as to your plans, this looks like a stairway to me. Is that where this is?
Yes.
If you could put up on the screen the first slide that we talked about, or second, next. The next one, there. So the red square is where you're going to build the new ICU. That's your number one priority. That's the first project you want to get done. And so putting everything that you said together, the first floor will be a multi-purpose facility.
It's open yet, nothing.
But it's closed. It will be closed in, multi-purpose room. And then the second floor is the new NICU. And then you've given us kind of like the specs of the new NICU. It's going to be a nursery and NICU. That means all the babies go there.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're going from our current 1,800 to 3,600 square feet and increasing the NICU beds. Looks like more than doubling those.
Yes.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so the red square that you're seeing right now in front of you where it says future NICU expansion, that is currently our courtyard. So it actually has no building. It's kind of an open space at the moment. And that's the one that goes all the way from the first floor to the fourth. It's kind of in between the buildings of the hospital.
Was this always the plan of where
Yes.
it was going to
Yes,
happen?
ma'am.
Okay.
So part of this plan, and we may not have expanded on it, but technically it's phase one will actually take care of the first floor and the second floor. I know that on the plan that we're showing, we're really only focusing on the second floor.
Yeah.
But the first floor, the part of that plan is for it to be used, the space to be used by our GMHA Volunteers Association. As we all know, GMHVA has been very instrumental in assisting the hospital all these years with, their fundraising efforts to buy much needed equipment for the hospital. And so my understanding is that part of the first floor is to be dedicated for the GMHVA. So basically, right now, there is a gift shop that the GMHVA operate. However, that gift shop will then move into this first floor.
All right. So going back to the NICU, none of this impacts the current pediatrics ward, right? That's not involved. That's on another floor. Okay. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So, and you find that the design is what we need? I guess, yes, I'd like to ask you, Zaldi, you're
Yes,
the engineer.
ma'am.
Yeah.
At the time it was conceived in 2019, we already have a permit set. However, due to funding issues, it was held up. So that for 2019 to 2024, there are some things that we need to consider. Now that this is on the table, we need to put our efforts in really pushing this through, as much as having to consider whatever we need to incorporate whatever we learned from 2019 to the present. So again, not only that, we're incorporating our responses to adapt to emergency conditions like the COVID and whatever pandemic that we're about to face, but also the NICU, once it's built, it will also address portions of the envelope project that we are also doing currently.
That's causing problems for the rest of the hospital as well.
Yes.
All right. That will.
Yes,
You think that will help take care of the mold?
at least that would take care of that area right
Okay.
then and there.
All right. What about so the end goal is like September 2027. Is any part of this going to be usable as we go along?
Yes, ma'am. On the next slide, if you could.
Yeah, and the
show
phase
that.
slides. Yeah, the next.
One more. Next. Okay. So, like we said, we have a phased-in approach. So we're looking at phase one to be the NICU because it would start from the grounds. And doing so, once the structure is completed, we can complete the NICU without disturbing the existing.
All right, and that will be operable.
So that's what I would call partial operability.
Looks like September 2025 or January or March 2026. That's great.
About
Yeah.
April 2026.
Okay, that's a NICU, right? All right.
So again, with every contract, if we do have the right contractor or vendor, then the phase-in is something that we could be able to discuss and see what's best fit to meet the project intent.
Okay.
So this is just preliminary, as we could say. And again, the contractors are the one who's going to be building it, but of course, they're going to take all the stakeholders' input as we progress through the project.
All right, and the doctors, the OBs, do you believe this, have you seen the design? Is that what we need?
I'm fairly new to the process. I just saw the plans over the last week, but so I wasn't part of all of that, those years of planning that went on. But from looking at it, I think this is what the women of Guam really deserve to have. We've dealt with things that are like from the 50s. I tell everyone, we don't have much, but we do great work anyway. We don't have the most modern facility, sometimes we don't have supplies, but we do great work. But if we do this project, we'll have a much nicer place for your daughters, sisters, whoever to give birth in. And I'm looking at this as in the long haul because even though I'm one of the oldest OBGYNs, almost all the other OBGYNs are going to be retired in 2 or 3 years. And we need a place that attracts new people, new blood. Like Dr. Seidel was saying about neonatologists. We can't attract one because we don't have a place for them to actually do their work. But this will give us that place. And, sorry.
I hope so. I just don't want to be told in the end after we built it that we didn't build it good enough, or we didn't put something in there that was necessary, or whatever.
So-
we can't save a life because of it.
Speaker, it seemed like things move slowly until they don't. And like this is all of a sudden coming de novo. But trust me, we spent hours, weeks, many, many weeks in 2016 to do this design. And a lot of energy from a lot of stakeholders, midwives, doctors, nurses. And we spent a lot of time to design this. Now, it's been on the shelf 8 years, but nothing has really changed from what we need. We did a lot of thought in this, and I can say unequivocally, assuming that the birth rate on Guam stays reasonably, I mean, obviously, if we go from, I think we're around 22, 23, if we go up to 4,600, this wouldn't do it. But assuming that the birth rate, which I have no reason not to, remains in and about the same, this is more than adequate for the OBGYNs. And there's some little things that I don't want to bore you with it, but we're going to get a lot better patient flow. And so it won't seem so congested because just the layout. And there's a lot of little niceties in here. And again, I don't want to bore you with it, but I'll mention one. When an OBGYN goes to sleep now, there's a bed, and the lockers are in a different room. So every time a doctor comes in to change his clothes, they wake up the sleeping doctor on call. That is not all that big a deal in the grand scheme of things, but that's a nicety. And there's a lot of just things that are going to take care of the patients a lot better, treat our nurses better, treat our physicians better. And so I can unequivocally say that this has been vetted by every OBGYN on Guam that is currently practicing here, and they're all in favor of this. And the last 2 nights, they were in favor of it in 2016. The last 2 nights, every OBGYN has came in, looked at this, and there's little things like change the name of this room to that room, but the basic plan is 100% approved by both the pediatricians and the OB nurse and the OB physicians. So yeah, you have my word on that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And are these like modern birthing rooms, or not like before? I had one baby in the one birthing room that GMH had. The next one was in a labor. You have to be moved 3 times during that whole process.
The whole moving thing, right?
Yeah.
That's quite a bone of contention. No, if I don't need that. So we have do you want me to go into this?
Just a general
Okay, so
assurance.
basically, there's LDRPs, and that's a bigger room where the patient will come, deliver, and actually be discharged from that room.
Great.
Right, there's 3 of those. Then there's 8 LDRPs, I guess I do need that. And they will only be moved once, right? So they'll deliver in that room, and then depending on if we need the room, they'll go over to OB. So that's one movement. So,
Okay.
right, I mean, we're going to cut down the times the patients have to go over to the gurney, et cetera, tremendously. And it is modern. Now, you know, some of the niceties, I've been in LDRPs in the States, which is nicer than any hotel I've stayed in. I don't know if we could go quite that far, but I think they're going to be very comfortable, and I think they're going to be good. You know, the plan is to get the families in the room so they can be more
Yes.
a part of it, and just, make it a good experience for everybody. And I think that does that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope
Yeah.
so. This is very exciting, and I want this for everyone. I've talked to maybe 2 or 3 people in the last week who are pregnant, considering going off island to have their baby. They're so afraid. I'm sorry, but that's just how they feel.
Wait, I can't let that go.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't let that go. If you want to buy a hamburger, go to McDonald's, right? Because you know what you're getting. GMH and the nurses there are top notch, and we do a lot of deliveries. And where the experience it may be not as nice, and we absolutely need this project, it's extraordinarily safe to deliver your baby at GMH, I promise you.
I believe that, but my issue is that that's not what they see. They see the newspapers, they see the water bursting, they see the no aircon issues, they see all of it. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with getting the public to trust us. That's one of the reasons I want to have this hearing and celebrate something that's actually looking good at GMH and moving forward. Now, can't you just give us your assurance there will be no political interference with that money, maybe, Dr. Prince, or that, just impediments to the project really, truly moving forward? For example, you're the acting CEO, and you are leaving, or, that's been announced. And so, if positions change, will the project still go forward? Is there any risk of losing the money?
Thank you. So let me tell you this labor and delivery, this maternal child health does not have Dr. Prince's name anywheres on it for a very important reason. It is not built on one person. This is what the island, this is what the moms and babies need to move forward to progress healthcare. I have the assurances, and I can tell you this, I have the assurances, and I also delegated and designated 2 people, one from operations and one from fiscal, that will be giving all the invoices for this fund that is delegated for this project. They have the money. So I am telling you this, is it going to go on if I am no longer here? I think I have everybody at this table who will give me a call if it does not. I don't think anybody wants to see this stop. And again, today is the day. We need to move forward, even if the new hospital is built, but guess what? It can't be built in one day. So we need to be cognizant of that.
All right.
And again, Lillian is very much in favor. Lillian is going to keep the project moving. You have my word on that as well.
Okay, great. And thank you for working with the administration. This is a fund administered by DOA, and you will be invoicing DOA as you go along, but you will be doing the procurement at GMH?
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay,
Speaker,
thanks. Yes.
Speaker, can I just introduce our Deputy Assistant Administrator of Nursing Services, this is Lizelle Concepcion. She was also instrumental in helping educate the nursing staff and getting their input on it as well. And so, Lizelle, if you want to have anything to add to Dr. Seidel or anything else.
Hi, happy day. My name is Lizelle Concepcion, Nursing Services. This is actually a very good opportunity for us to do this. It's overdue. Like we said, it started in 2016. One of the things about MCH, maternal child, the golden hours is very important. Family bonding, this is the reason the rooms they're big enough to accommodate the family when they're giving birth. Instead of these tiny rooms that we have, we can actually allow family to be part of this birth, which is the most essential, very important to family to be part of that birth. So we incorporate that together when we develop this one. We ensure that the room is adequate enough for everybody to be part of this special moment. And the golden years that we're implementing in the hospital is when the bonding between a mom and a baby has to be there. The skin-to-skin touch is what we promote. Breastfeeding is very important, that we have to include that as well. And will help our community. And at the same time, I appreciate our mothers who's been taking care of our kids. And as a matter of fact, as you know, I'm not sure, have you seen our NICU facility? I'm not sure, have you been rounds at our NICU? And I wish you can see how little that place is so tiny. We have 4 NICU, and it's very small. Has 4 babies in there in incubators. Our incubators are getting so big and bulky and high, and that place is very tiny. Having to take care of babies, and the nurses and doctors are right there, and the incubator is literally next to right here. So this particular space that you're giving it to us, when we build this one, it will be adequate for that baby and the family to be there when that time comes. So as a matter of fact, these kids, this baby that was born in the hospital are premature, they stay in the hospital for 6 to 8 months, even a year, taken care of by our nurses in the hospital with our doctors or pediatrician. NICUs is their first home. We have to make sure that their parents be there with them 24/7. And that's what those baby needs at NICU. So we need all the space we can get. And I just want to add, I am not a construction, I am a nurse. But because this project was done in 2016, budgeted with $15 million, things have changed, prices goes up. So just for a small incubator, it costs about $45,000. Just one incubator. And the fact that we want to centralize using a cardiac monitor, I just got vendors getting information to centralize NICU using those cardiac monitors. It costs $250,000 for eight licensed cardiac monitor. So prices goes up. So you might question us about the $15 million later on. It might change because construction cost is very expensive. Equipments are going to be expensive, so. And we really, truly support, we're really thankful for all your support for doing this for all of us, for our community. Thank you.
So Lizelle, you mentioned something about equipment and let's say beds, chairs, potentially something for the father to sleep in there, maybe like a recliner or something like that. Yeah, that is not included in this price. I'll be honest with you right now. The price will go up. However, we got to get moving on something. I'm just thrilled that we have this, and so there'll be more to come, most likely. Maybe I'll fly over for another hearing, and we'll do that again. Jordan, you have anything to say?
Can I just address something that Lizelle brought up, and that is that in the NICU, there's no space for parents. And sick babies need to hear their mom's voice and feel their mom's touch. And all of my patients who want to be with their babies can't. They have like 15-minute slots that they can go visit their baby in the nursery, not even mentioning the ICU. And this will really allow our babies to do better because they're going to have contact with their parents. And like Lizelle said, 24/7 access to their baby is something we just don't have the room for now.
Thank you. And thank you, Lizelle, and happy Nurses Month to you and to all of the nurses there at GMH. We had the honor of having some of them here yesterday with their nightingale caps. So that was very fun. Thank you. Can someone either now or later give me a total count of beds for current and versus when this is all done? And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Minority Leader Senator Blas.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to the panel, thank you very much for being here. Very informative, very insightful. And Lizelle, thank you. You know what? You actually answered my question before I even asked it, okay? because, you know, you're right. It was 15 million then, 22 million now, but you've got the equipment and beds and stuff, and you're Dr. Prince. Has there been a study of what that additional cost may be?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time, sir?
As was mentioned by Ms. Concepcion and Dr. Prince, the 22 million that you got would probably just about cover just the construction cost, but not to equip it, the space. Has there been a study or been on what it may take, what it may cost to be able to outfit these?
So just to clarify, sir, the amount that we received in the appropriation is $15 million.
Yes.
We're anticipating that, so in the few years ago, the estimated cost of construction was $9.2 million plus $3 million for equipment, which brought it up to about $12 million. So what we're anticipating is right now, given inflation and so on, we are initially estimating about a $15.5 million for the construction alone, and then possibly another $5 million for the furnishings and equipment.
Oh, okay. So that makes up your 22 million.
Not 22. We never got 22.
Okay. Then I must have
Yeah.
been. So
But-
you're 15 plus your 5,
Oh.
15 point something plus your 5
Yes.
point something.
Yes, sir.
Rounded
Sorry.
off to the nearest 10, I'm doing my DI math. 22 million, right? I mean, right around there.
Yes, so,
Okay.
so in essence, sir, we got the $15 million, we set aside about $1 million from the ARPA funding, so that brings us only to 16. So even if we're estimating about 20 with, you know, the construction plus the equipment, we're still short.
Okay, but now you mentioned something. You said you got $1 million from the ARPA funding. Will you be able to make sure that that's at least encumbered by September or December of this
Yes.
year? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Let's not lose that pot of money.
We are on top of that, sir.
All right, great.
Rodlin and I talk about that on a daily basis to make sure we encumber that on
Appreciate it.
time.
What about staffing? You know, I mean, you know, the two doctors just mentioned, I mean, you know, that the three doctors on that side, you guys are going to be gone soon. Well, so who's going to run this operation?
No, Dr. Versio is going to be working for the next 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he has young kids to college, so he'll be here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, you know, I'm looking at the space and looking at the expansion and everything, and you're going to bring in a whole lot of activity, and, you know, then the concern is, as is concerned, not just with the hospital, but with healthcare industry on Guam as well, is whether or not we're going to, much less, I remember the conversation we had a couple of days ago just about the nurses.
Can I take
know
a
this is
stab at
specialty-
this? So if we build this, it's going to be easier to recruit physicians.
Okay.
So the next John Seidel will be younger, better looking, taller, and he'll want to come here because he'll have a place to sleep. When he walks through, he'll say, hey, this is a good place, I want to be here. The neonatologist, the nurses. I mean, we do have dedicated nurses. I don't want to in any way impugn that. But this is a nice office here, right? It's probably pleasurable to come into work for you. I like this office. And so what I'm hoping is that we're going to get a side benefit, and that's kind of what I talked about, the ripples, is that with a nicer facility, one would think it would be easier to recruit nurses. Now, building this will automatically, will UOG produce 30 more nurses a year? No. But hopefully we'll be able to retain a few that want to work in a modern facility and they don't have to go to the States. Obviously, I can't give you an exact number, but I can say the nicer the facility, the easier it is to recruit nurses and physicians. I think that's a given.
I would like to add additional regarding staffing. Currently in NICU, we're actually using travel nurse. We actually use 4 travel nurses right now. We just came, I apologize for being late. We just came at UOG. We're trying to do a recruitment. We have a total of 32 nurses graduating this year. We're just hoping that we'll recruit them to the hospital. I know there's a competition out there in the market. getting nurses to come to Guam, and, you know, to make them work at the hospital. Salary wages is very competitive, so we're hoping to get the UOG nurses to work for our hospitals so that we're no longer reliable on travel nurses. Okay. And definitely a new facility is going to be very attractive, and we do have a lot of military that comes to the island with RNs coming into us and asking information about our facility. That's the first thing they usually ask, how's your facility? We want to visit your facility first before we agree to work as a part-time basis. Hopefully we can entice nurses to come.
Oh, okay. A couple of things with regard to the sheet that we got. I noticed, I guess on page 3, your NICU expansion for future. You said that it's going to take where the stairway is at? How do are we addressing the emergency ingress egress?
Yes.
To the hospital?
If we can please scroll to 2 pages from there on the phased-in approach. 2 more.
So the 5th page of your packet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there. If you can see on this one, you'll still see a stairway on the top right, as well as we're actually also going to build an elevator on this.
Okay.
So it'll also address part of our elevator needs for the hospital.
And so this area is basically right around where your atrium is at?
Yes.
Currently, that's where your atrium is at?
Yes.
Also, we don't have to worry about that mess anymore,
the
right?
Courtyard, yes.
Great. Okay. Okay, yeah, so now it's clear for me here. But then you also mentioned there's going to be expansion on the first floor, right? Or there's going to be some shifting on the first floor?
So the first floor, right below, so the courtyard, basically the first and second floor will be enclosed.
Okay. Okay. Because I was looking for that schematic on here.
We can send that to you later, sir.
You know, I know that we're pressed for time, ma'am. I may have other questions, but we can save for another time. So, my other colleagues, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Senator Blas. You came first. Yes, Senator Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and buenas and good afternoon to the panel. And I'd also like to thank the chair for holding this informational hearing just a couple of days before Mother's Day. So appropriate, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to, I'm not sure if I have any questions, really. I'm really just trying to keep my cynicism and my skepticism at bay right now because in just hearing a lot of the commentary about the timelines and when we got the money to do this, I'm just thinking, you know, shades obviously of Simon Sanchez, the new prison, and this, you know, fabled maternity child health ward that now looks like, I mean, I like an aggressive timeline. I like that you're trying to wrap this up to be able to put it out to bid. About 20 years ago, my oldest son was born at, and I'm dating myself here in many ways, he was born at Sagua. And shortly after he was born, there was some difficulty with his numbers, and so he ended up getting rushed over to the Guam Memorial Hospital, where he was put in the NICU for a couple days. And I remember, he was my second child. I remember looking at the NICU and thinking to myself, that's the NICU? That's the NICU. That's where you're going to put my son. And looking at just how, I'm struggling for the right word here. It just didn't look advanced enough, right? And I had my doubts about just the facility, but and you're right, Dr. Prince. I never once doubted the level of care that my son was going to receive, because every time I've been to the Guam Memorial Hospital, I look around and you know, I see things I don't want to see, but what I always take away from it is that the staff, the nurses, the doctors, they work very, very hard, and I never once felt like my son or anybody that I was at the hospital with wasn't getting the absolute best level of care humanly possible that could be provided by the hardworking staff of the Guam Memorial Hospital. And I agree, Doc, I think it's a no-brainer that we've tried everything to retain the nurses, we've increased the pay, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to work in a place that you feel is safe, appreciates you, or impedes or hampers your ability to deliver the care that, you know, our island and her people deserve, then of course, people are going to pack up and they're going to leave no matter how much you're paying them. So I'm very encouraged by this news, and I really hope that we can see the continuity because, and you know, I don't know where Lillian is right now, but she did resign in here and then walk that back, and so I'm not saying anything about her ability to keep her word, because that's not what's at play here. It's really you pushing all these things towards the finish line. So I just hope that we can continue and keep this energy and do this, you know, once and for all. And there's so many other conversations we've had in this room with public health and, you know, the infant mortality rate and maternal child health in general. And it really is heartbreaking that we don't have these conversations more. And so anything we can do to ensure that, again, you know, newborns and mothers are getting the best care they need. I don't know so much about the fathers. I've spent my share of nights, and I was just looking while you're talking over some of the baby pictures of my youngest, who was also born at Guam Memorial Hospital. But yeah, the recliner, you know, I don't think we're there to have a good night's sleep anyway. I think it's more about mom getting to sleep. So I don't think you need to budget too much for the dads and whatever they're going to be sitting in. You know, first things first. So yeah, again, thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to thank the panel for coming out and delivering what I hope is going to be good news that sticks in the coming months and delivers the healthcare improvements that our people definitely need in the coming years. So, Sidos Masi, Madam Chair.
Sidos Masi, Senator Barnett. Senator Brown?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Certainly good afternoon to all of you for being here. I do also echo the comments by Senator Barnett. You know, this has been a long discussion, and the funding's been sitting there for quite some time. So we are hopeful, as always. I think we always try to remain hopeful that things will move forward. And I just wanted to ask, what's different now? I mean, it was just a few years ago the new hospital stopped providing this type of care, and really that burden fell back on GMH to pretty much absorb all the birthing here on the island. So, I mean, you know, we are hopeful, but what is different now? I mean, the funding's been here, this issue's been brought up repeatedly, and the need has definitely been there. I don't think there's any argument there, but then nothing moved forward. So what can we expect, and what can the public expect that's different?
I'll say a little bit, because I have studied some of the fiscal issues related to this and the legal stuff, and then Rodolin can add a couple things as well. First of all, I will start by saying I express and share the same skepticism of timelines in Guam. I live on Ipao Road. I know very well when they tell you a timeline. You get excited, but things take a while. But now that it's been open a few days, I do have to say I've almost completely forgotten that it was ever closed. Part of this is a pain of progress, but but I also, looking back at some of the other funding sources, such as the USDA loan that was contemplated at one point, as well as some of the audited sources that we now have. Like the USDA loan came with certain restrictions with matching funds and advancing certain funds that we didn't have at the time. And then the current funding source too, that is from the fiscal year 2022, is that correct? Was, we had to wait for that audit to be completed, and that audit was actually substantially delayed as well. And so so once that's finally been completed and everything, and the dust has settled from that, we finally had our team, Dr. Prinz and our CFO had met with the Department of Administration, and they had confirmed that it was there. And that's actually when Dr. Prinz had put Rodolin and one of the other staff members as the spearheads of this. So before I turn it over to Rodolin, I will say I'm excited about this as well. I will save my celebration until we actually open our doors on the phases of this project, but I also know that we have the dedicated funding source with much fewer financial restrictions on that money now than we ever had before, as well as an acute need to do it both because GRMC is no longer taking cases and we are the only ones, as well as some of the envelope problems that this will address for the hospital while we wait for a new one to be built.
Well, we certainly look forward to it. I mean, the need is there. I was a patient there when my son was born, and I agree. I mean, the service and support definitely was there for us, but you're right, the facilities definitely are in need. And I was just briefly talking to Senator Barnett as well, because, you know, this whole idea that we're going to move out of the existing GMH and tear it down to the ground, you know, putting this investment in is something that, you know, we really need to look at in terms of what are we going to do in the future of GMH. Do we keep certain components of this facility that can be upgraded and renovated, and are there other specialties that we need to upgrade that could be in other locations that are nearby? It's something to look at because it is a substantial investment. So how about structurally this portion of the hospital? Because I know those issues have been brought up, assessments that have been done. We always hear about the Army Corps and their assessment of the facility. Would there be any issues of the existing building and the structure to accommodate this renovation and ensure that it's a viable and safe facility for our people to use?
Good afternoon. The new facility will be renovated in accordance with the IBC 2009. So all those codes will be inputted for the new utilities that's going to come along with the renovation of the facility.
And the existing structure, is it still
the existing structure,
stable enough to be able to invest this renovation?
I would say so, ma'am. None of us been mentioned about the structure. It's just the utilities that needs to be, of course, with the new upgraded to meet the requirements.
And there was mentioned also that you have about $1 million in ARPA funds that you're going to be able to use. Is that something you're able to secure so that it's not something that, you know, it sunsets and then we have to return the money? I mean, are we able to encumber it so that it can be used for this purpose?
Yes, ma'am. So just to clarify, so on that $15 million appropriation, as Jordan had already mentioned, the fiscal year 22 surplus, it had to be the audited numbers. And so I did look back at the OPA's website just to confirm when the fiscal year 22 government-wide audit was completed. It was just issued November 2023. So therefore, the money has really technically only been available for the last few months. So from that perspective. Now on the ARPA, the governor gave us $20 million in ARPA, which we have been diligently and carefully trying to make sure that we are using it appropriately. And so with that, we did set aside $1 million, and we're making sure that we're not trying to obligate that for anything other than this project. And that kind of brings me to the timeline. The reason for the more aggressive timeline, too, is because the ARPA funds must be obligated by 12/31/2024. And yes, we are aware of that, and so we're making sure, to the best of our ability, we're going to try and make sure that we obligate everything that we need to. As a matter of fact, for our other ARPA-funded projects, we're trying to the best of our abilities, again, try to make sure we obligate those by 9/30, just to make sure we don't miss that deadline. Now with this project, because of the timing of recert and all of that, it's going to take a little bit longer, but our hope is certainly to try to obligate everything on or before 12/31.
Do you anticipate any additional ARPA funding? Because, I mean, the governor seemed to have reserved a certain amount for a new hospital, and, as we've seen, there's no consensus. At least we have a consensus of majority, but the governor vetoed our proposal that passed with Senator Barnett's bill. Have you heard if there's any possibility there might be additional funding the administration can provide to the hospital, since the timeline doesn't look realistic right now for the construction of a new hospital at another location where that money can be invested?
I have not heard of the availability of other funding, because that is something that GMHA does not. We don't have the direct control over it until it has been assigned to us.
No,
so
I understand. I'm just asking,
yeah.
has that been any discussion for that?
Some discussions have been had about ARPA funding and how it's been assigned to GMH and other things, but there's not been an indication of additional assigned funds that I am aware of.
If additional funds were to be available in the next few months, would you be in a position to absorb that and respond in a timely manner to be able to have that money used, or additional needs for this particular project?
Our whole team, particularly Rodalyn, Zaldi, and I, along with Dr. Prinz, have been quite aggressive in making sure we obligate whatever funds we need to in a timely fashion, because we're always short on money anyway. I don't want a timeline to ever get in the way of us losing money that we otherwise have dedicated to us.
Well, I hope you stay on top of it. I mean, as you know, we've relayed, we do have a degree of skepticism. You know, we still have questions with regards to leadership of GMH. We're not overly impressed, unfortunately, just because of the track record and where the hospital is. You know, a lot of promises were made, and here we are 6 years down the road, and you know, that most recent incident that happened with the broken pipe or the pipe breaking, you know, we understand the infrastructure is getting old up there. But, you know, the fact that nobody is on top of it or checking or testing or whatever the case may be or upgrading as the need is there is concerning. But certainly we're hopeful if you as your team are able to move forward and actually break ground and do these upgrades. We certainly look forward to it. And as mentioned by our chair, I mean, the people of Guam and all the future mothers that are going to be able to use this facility and have the support and the technology that's needed, especially for those special cases that really need that extra support, is going to be very much appreciated. And I'm sure our chair will continue to stay on top of this process as we move forward so that we have buy-in and we know that it's actually going to happen.
Senator, I'm just going to push back. There has never been a lack of willingness from the administration of GMH to move forward with this project. And so, no. The lack of moving forward with this project was the legislature not giving us money for it, the governor not protecting it. But every administration, every head of OB, we've always wanted to do this project, and there were outside societal influences stopping us. So we are not wavering. We are moving forward aggressively, and we always have. We can't build a $14 million project if all the legislature gives us is $1.3 million. And so the administration, whether it's the CEO, the CEO before, the chief medical officer before, the OBGYNs, we've always wanted this project. And we've gone to every meeting. You had a Dr. Shea go into your offices doing ultrasounds. I mean, I just can't let stand that the administration has been in any way reticent in this project and not gone to every meeting, crossed every T, dotted every I to get this project going. So,
well, you know, I'm going to comment because I appreciate maybe from your perspective that's the case. We're talking about the overall management of the hospital. And for some of us who have direct experience in executing multi-million-dollar projects and delivering them, and I've had the experience to do that, I know what's involved in getting things done. And apparently there's been a disconnect. If you're going to say the legislature hasn't appropriated funds, I think we recently appropriated a lot of funds to bail out the hospital to find out, and it was a question that I myself asked of your management team, to find out that it was $30 million behind in paying vendors. And the excuse we got, the explanation we got, and how are you dealing with that? Oh, we're dealing with other vendors. When we hear those type of responses, it's very concerning to us because, you know, who are you talking to? Are we people that literally have no comprehension or understanding of what's going on? And we do represent the interests and concerns of the public. And when we don't see those direct answers, we don't see the follow-through, we don't see the delivery at the end of the day, then we get to question that. So you may have your perspective from your division, but from the overall performance, I think most of our people will not agree with that.
You have every right to not to agree, but you represent the public you're elected, and you control the purse strings. There is no way that GMH could be a functional hospital on the meager amount of money that you give it. If you want services to be up to par, you have to give money. If you want services not to be, you could have Warren Buffett sit in this chair right here, and he is not going to make GMH profitable or with money. And I know we didn't come here to talk about this today. It was supposed to be a day of celebration for the labor and delivery and the MCH, but you know, I think a mindset, I won't be in this job very long, but ultimately you're going to have a choice very soon. You can either appropriate the amount of money we need, we can maintain services. You could not appropriate the money we need and we're going to cut services, or you could close the hospital. Those are the choices. You could fire me. If there's a doctor that wants my job right now, tell him tomorrow. You got a phone? There's 200 doctors. Have them come and do my job. There's lots of people, but the idea that somehow the administration of GMH is remiss or incompetent, and that's why we're struggling financially, it just isn't true. And I'm going on record to say it.
Well, I appreciate your input, but certainly I think you also have to accept our perspective and concern that we have, because again, I mean, I've been there. I know what it is to deliver on a project and do major construction and have it done in a timely fashion.
Well,
I'm
perhaps
not
you
here-
could be
sorry,
CEO
I'm
of the
sorry.
hospital.
This is my forum to speak. I'm not here to debate you. I mean, take it, leave it, it's up to you as well. I mean, you can do with it as you will. But we have every right also to question. I mean, we want to see this delivered as well because these issues have come up. But I'm not going to spend the time today to go into all the other internal politics of the hospital and how money is or is not being spent properly, because we could be here a whole week if we want to get into that. Priorities and who's getting hired, priorities and who's getting paid, priorities and who's getting all the extra money they shouldn't be getting. Who gets the contracts perhaps they should or should not be getting. The list goes on. There's a whole lot of reasons why an organization operates efficiently and effectively and why it doesn't. So I get to say that. And I'm simply ensuring that we raise those concerns because they do exist. Doesn't take away from this project. I hope it fires you up enough to ensure that those of you that are working on it move forward, because we do look forward. If you're actually able to deliver on this, I think the people of Guam would be very happy to see that. So with that, Madam Chair, I don't have any further questions or comments. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you
to
very
ask
much,
these
Senator
questions.
Brown. Yuka, can I ask you a question, if you don't mind coming up to the table? First of all, if you don't mind stating your name and position.
Yuka Hechanova, CFO.
Did the Guam Memorial Hospital receive its budget request in the last budget cycle?
Yes.
Right? It did. And for every year, probably, that I've been a senator, it has. And in fact, it's the legislature that has questioned over and over, why is the GMH not asking for any CIP projects for years? Not one. We even tried to give them more money when they weren't even asking for it. So I just take exception to what you want to blame GMH's entire fiscal state because the legislature doesn't want to give it money. I think that's wrong. And I just think, I don't know where you're getting all your information, but I think finally we've come to a time where the money that we've tried to give is actually been put aside, going to be spent where it's supposed to be spent, and hopefully in time to save some lives and to take care of the women and the children that deserve it. And I'm just sad that that's the information that you've been given, because of course we could put all our money to GMH. That doesn't fix the management of it. We had an oversight hearing maybe only 2 months ago, where one of your, not you, doctor, but one of GMH's management teams said, oh, why weren't these projects done? Because we put them on hold. So just, if I'm trying to be very cooperative with GMH. We have management that wants to move forward with this project. I want to focus on that. If you want to point fingers only at the legislature, then I think you're absolutely misinformed.
We did ask for additional funding.
Yeah, when you came in, but not part of the budget requests. All of these budget requests, we did. And then we ended up having to give $30 million. The governor had to give $20 million. That was like only a couple months after the budget.
But that was the shortfall from the budget, and we do appreciate we got it at the end of the year to pay
the budget
payables.
request, Yuka, was the exact amount of what the governor had requested for GMH. And that was the amount that we appropriated, if not more. I think we appropriated more.
It was about $2 million more, I think, on the general fund
yes.
side.
And then, of course, the billing cycle all of the projections that were made did not occur because the billings were not able to occur. And so then we cooperated again, thanks to Senator Blas's bill, and put in another $30 million, which we took out of other sources of funding, other places in the government. In fact, this labor and delivery was one of the projects that they put on the table to take the funds out of there to use for the $30 million. And so I'm just very glad to find out from Dr. Prinz that they didn't do that, to get the $30 million over to GMH, because they gave us a sheet where they outlined that that's where they were going to get that money. So again, I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for the progress on this maternal and child health care. I really hope the timelines are going to come through, and we're looking forward to, in December of 2024, in a couple months, the contract will be awarded and construction can begin in January or December. So again, Dr. Prince, Sidus Masi, for your cooperation, and thank you very much for all your work. Thank you to all of you doctors, nurses, all of your staff. I know, Roddy, I've known you since I've been a senator because we've been in all the meetings, even with Army Corps, all of them, and thank you for all your work, and thank you for being dedicated to move this project forward. Thank you to all of your team. And so this hearing is concluded. It is 3:20 p.m. If there's any other materials that you'd like to submit, we would appreciate updates. I think that would be very helpful. As I said, we're all battling a very bad impression of GMH. We want to shine the benefits and the great things that GMH is doing. So if you could just keep us updated on this project, I think that would be very, very good. Sidus Masi, and I'll help you to spread that word.
Yes,
all right.
Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned. Sidus Masi.